For a long time, it felt like the story of Venezuela was all about just a handful of powerful figures. But now, that entire story's been ripped to shreds, leaving this huge power vacuum. So to really understand how Venezuela got to this crazy turning point and what might happen next, we've got to look at the path that got us here, all based on some fascinating analysis from Francis Foster.
You know, this quote right here, it really nails the absolute shock people felt. For so long, the idea of Nicolás Maduro actually facing justice seemed impossible, like something out of a movie. This moment is a complete break from the past, but to really get why it's so significant, we have to go back. We have to talk about the man who built the whole system in the first place. So, to get to the root of everything, we have to rewind the clock and talk about the man who set it all in motion, Hugo Chavez. He was the architect of modern Venezuela, and his legacy, well, it's the foundation for everything that came after.
So Chavez bursts onto the scene in '99, right? And he has this massive wave of popular support. He promised he was going to fight the corrupt old guard and spread the wealth around. And that message really landed with people who were stuck in poverty. But you can see where this is going. That amazing promise, it started to go sour. Corruption became rampant, and all that oil money got siphoned off. By the time he died in 2013, the dream had turned into a total nightmare.
Okay, this number right here, this tells you everything you need to know about the huge, fatal flaw in Venezuela's economy, a weakness Chavez got really good at exploiting. 97%. Almost the entire economy was propped up by oil. It wasn't diverse or complex, it was basically one giant cash machine. And when you've got a system like that, well, whoever controls that machine, they control everything.
So this is it, right here, the huge gap between what was promised and what actually happened. The message was all about wealth for everyone, but in reality, the country's incredible oil money made a tiny group of people incredibly rich, while most Venezuelans just watched their country fall apart around them. The promise wasn't just bent, it was completely broken.
So, as Chavez's health got worse, he knew he needed someone to carry the torch. But his choice? It was a real head-scratcher for a lot of people. He didn't go for the most skilled or charismatic guy. He picked a man who was known for one thing above all else: loyalty. He picked Nicolás Maduro.
Right, so here's the bottom line on Maduro. His biggest selling point wasn't his brain, it was his obedience. He wasn't seen as some brilliant strategist or a sharp political operator. No, he was chosen because Chavez knew, without a doubt, that this guy would do exactly what he was told. He was a loyalist, pure and simple. I mean, this just says it all, doesn't it? There are actual clips out there of Maduro trying to do super simple math in his head and just failing. It really cemented this public image of him as someone who was just not equipped for the job. Not a leader, but more of a placeholder. When Maduro took over, there was this tiny sliver of hope, you know? A feeling that maybe, just maybe, things could change. But that hope, it vanished. Like, poof, gone. Under Maduro, Venezuela's disastrous slide didn't just continue. It was like the country went into a nosedive and millions of people were pulled down with it.
So that begs the really fascinating question, right? If the guy in charge, the face of the country, is seen as this incompetent figurehead, then who is really calling the shots? Who is the puppet master?
Well, the answer leads us to the third major player in this whole drama, and maybe the most powerful of them all, Maduro's wife, Celia Flores, a woman that many people think was the true mastermind of the regime. Yeah, the Telegraph newspaper straight up called her the Lady Macbeth of Venezuela. And you know what? That chilling nickname stuck for a very good reason. Just like in Shakespeare, she's seen as this ruthless, ambitious figure who had immense power over her husband, and through him, the whole country. Look, Celia Flores was never just the first lady cutting ribbons. No way. She was a political force in her own right long before Maduro became president. She was the strategist, the one everyone called the brains behind the operation. And here's the kicker. Inside Venezuela, the word was she was even more extreme, more authoritarian, even more cruel than her husband. And you have to understand this to get how people were feeling. For so many Venezuelans who suffered, sure, Maduro was the face on TV, but Celia Flores, she was seen as the one pulling the strings in the shadows. So when the news broke that she was facing justice, wow, that was huge. It felt like the real power behind the throne was finally crumbling. Okay, so the old guard is gone. The whole system collapses. And what's left? A giant power vacuum. This leads to the biggest, most urgent question of all. Who is in charge right now?
So to get a handle on what's happening on the ground, we need to know this term, de facto. It's pretty simple.
It just means what's happening in reality, in fact, whether it's official or not. It's all about what's actually going on, not what's written on some piece of paper.
Okay, so according to the analysis we're looking at, here's how that power vacuum is being filled. There's a figure named Delcy Rodriguez who stepped into a leadership role. But, and this is the crucial part, she's apparently in direct communication with the U.S. government. And this has led the analyst to a pretty shocking conclusion, that the U.S. is now effectively calling the shots on big decisions. So much so that Venezuela is operating like a de facto colony of the United States. Now that is a really bold claim, and it just shows you the level of outside influence being talked.
And that leaves us right here, with this huge, terrifying question mark hanging over millions of people. What's next for Venezuela? Is this new setup going to bring any kind of stability? What are things going to look like in 6 months? What about in 2 years?
The honest and frankly scary answer, well, it's this. After everything the country has been through, the corruption, the collapse, the upheaval, the only thing that's certain is uncertainty. The people watching this the closest will tell you the simple truth. Nobody knows what comes next. The future of Venezuela is a completely blank page, just waiting for its next critical chapter to